All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
Well, I got a burr under my saddle.
We talk, you listen.
Somebody that's going to take an innocent life is not mentally insane?
You know them.
Time to nut up or shut up.
You love to hate them.
It's the Denton and Sasquatch Show.
You're not good, kid.
Can I bring my AR-15 next time?
Sure.
Yes.
This place is half talk show, half weird daycare. I love it.
You can't handle the truth.
Hello and welcome once again to the Denton and Sasquatch Show, coming to you live from California and Alabama. I am Sasquatch, the hairy dude in California, and then we got the hairless dude over in Alabama. His name is Denton.
I am Denton. I am sleek and hairless and clean, and I'm spiffy.
You should be like an Olympic swimmer.
I'm dapper.
Well, Dapper Dan, it's good to hear you again.
Well, it's good to hear you again, too. How's everything going? How's the heat in Los Angeles?
It has cooled down, so I'm much happier nowadays. Let me look here. We're at 78 degrees right now, so not too bad.
Wow, that's great. We're doing good as far as the temperature here, but it looks like New Orleans may get another enema.
Oh, yeah.
That place needs to be cleaned out every once in a while. But anyway, speaking of clean out, did you know that the world's going to hell in a handbasket and only a few of us seem to be paying attention?
Well, I know these two guys that do a podcast that talk about that, but,
Yeah, well, other than these two, I know a fella that he is also from Alabama. It seems that there's a bunch of dapper, spiffy, very intelligent people in Alabama. And this guy is he's the mastermind behind Wasteland Media.
All right.
I'm pretty sure he's not calling Alabama Wasteland, but his site is Wasteland Media, and we're going to talk to him about the sickness that seems to be going across. Well, actually, it's been across the country, but now it's becoming more well known, and he's been on it like flies on turds. Jeremy, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. How you guys doing?
It's our pleasure. We're doing fine, as we already stated. Let me ask you a question. Wasteland Media, where can we find Wasteland Media?
Well, I'm on YouTube. You can search me on there, but I'm about to stop posting stuff on there, I think, and I'm kind of transferring over to BitChute. YouTube, last night I posted a video, and just 2 hours after I posted it, they took it down. So I'm kind of done with them, and I'm going to BitChute, and I will be also uploading to Real.video. As well as you can find me on Gab or Minds.com, any of those platforms.
Sasquatch, what have we been talking about?
Oh, I don't know. People being censored on YouTube.
Yep. As a matter of fact, the next show is going to be about that kind of stuff, unless we fit it in tonight. But, well, actually not about that, but Big Brother as far as social media. But back to Jeremy. Jeremy,
yes,
you're wanting to talk about something that you've been doing a lot of research on. As a matter of fact, we're not going to go into your personal doings, but you're the boots on the ground top fellow there. We're not going to go into that because don't want to blow any covers or anything, but you've done research on the child trafficking situation.
Yes, absolutely. And just for your listeners out there, I do want to give them another notice. I know you did last week as well, but I want to give them another notice. Just the very nature of this topic is not child friendly. So if you have people in the room around you that this is not appropriate for, you need to, probably listen to this in private. Just the very nature of this is hard to cover without, being explicit to children. This is just things they don't need to hear. So that being said, I do want to talk about the Pennsylvania grand jury report. Some of you guys probably, you might have heard a little bit about this, but the media didn't do a very good job of covering it, in my opinion. So a few weeks ago, they released this report, which contains details of 301 priests who sexually abused over 1,000 children. Now, the investigators, they're looking at records that they found at the Catholic Church. So they go and they start doing this investigation, and lo and behold, there's all these records of all these cases. They said it was almost 500,000 pages that they had to dig through. So this was a 2-year investigation. It took them 2 years just to go through the records.
Now, the investigators found these cases in the Catholic Church, you're saying?
Absolutely, yes.
So the Catholic Church was aware of this?
Oh, not just the Catholic Church. That's just the very beginning. So they look at 6 Catholic dioceses in Pennsylvania. They looked at Allentown, Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, Greensboro, Erie, and Scranton. And these are records that are in a nice little filing cabinet, they said, just feet away from the priest. So you have this has been going on for decades. For decades, new priests will come in, they see all these records, but they don't say anything about it. Now, to go just farther than that, this was even reported to the Vatican. And if y'all read or saw, the Vatican puts out a statement and says, oh, well, we can't believe this happened, but they knew about it the whole time and didn't do anything. That's proven in these records where this Pennsylvania Catholic churches, they reported this to the Vatican, and the Vatican didn't do anything about it. So this is a very systematic cover-up from the top down. And these 1,000 children that we're seeing that were sexually abused by these priests, these are only the children that were on records. The investigators said they believe that real number is well within the thousands of children.
Oh, I
you got
believe
to keep
that.
in mind this is decades. This has been going on for decades.
We have sort of the same thing going on here in L.A. We had a bishop named Mahoney, who just retired and got a nice cushy job at the Vatican, but he had the same thing going on here where they just covered it up for decades, really. And I'm sure it's still going on today. So this is going on all over the place.
If there is any beacon of light of hope here, they've actually this particular report has really sparked some hope in people that may have otherwise been scared to come out. Maybe in the past they tried to come out and just didn't get, really any. Maybe people didn't believe them. They just thought it was nonsense. But since this report came out and people believe that, oh wow, this is a real thing, they've actually already started another investigation in Missouri. They've just started it, based off of allegations, as well as they opened up a hotline in Pennsylvania, and I saw kind of a follow-up interview, and he said that they've already had hundreds of phone calls coming in, on this hotline, following up on this report. So, if anything, what I'm hoping is that people will see that, hey, finally law enforcement is taking this serious. We're realizing that this kind of thing is very possible within a Catholic church like this, where you would think that'd be the last place in the world something like this would be going on. You would never expect something like this to be going on. As a matter of fact, 5 years ago, if I would have told you that this was going on, you would have called me a nut job conspiracy theorist, So
No, not really. Rumors and isolated incidents like this has been going on in the Catholic Church for a long time. I've heard of this before.
Yeah.
But it's not just the Catholic Church, to be fair.
No, it's not.
Anywhere where adults are placed in authority positions of children without any supervision of their own. And that includes Protestant churches, that's schools, you name it. And the thing about it is pedophiles are attracted. They go to places where they know they can get access to kids anyway. And then
Yes,
when you're
absolutely.
looking at an organization like the Catholic Church, where the priests have to take a vow of celibacy, that kind of warps the mind a little bit. That doesn't help the situation one bit.
No, it absolutely does not. And in fact, Disney World has actually, since 2006, has had at least 35 employees arrested for sex crimes against children. So if that gives you any idea to back that up, these pedophiles are going to go anywhere that they can be empowered over children. So that's anywhere that your children are in a situation like that, you need to be very aware of the people that are around them, the people that are in charge of them, and you really need to get to know them well. I mean, that's very, very important.
Well, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here either, but a lot, I don't know if I want to say a lot, but some of this has to do with illegal immigration also. A lot of these people are being brought in from other countries with a promise of a better life and a promise of this and that, and then they get stuck in these prostitution rings, and a lot of them are children. So, I mean, this sort of spans a huge sort of octopus tentacles of every direction, not just the Catholic Church.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we've also found out through the separation of the children from the parents thing that the liberals were blaming Trump for, that was actually started by Obama, all these kids coming over, the adults weren't necessarily their parents. These kids are being brought over as if they're their children to be put into the sex trafficking routine.
Absolutely, yeah. And the thing is that the people that are sending their children over here know that. They're sending them with Plan B pills, knowing that this is going to go on. It's just not that unknown to them, but yet they still send their children over here. I mean, that has to either raise the question, are these children being abducted in Mexico and then sent here involuntarily, or is life really that bad in Mexico that they would send them here that way, knowing that that would be better than what's going on in Mexico? I have a hard time, really believing that the latter is true.
These kids are coming from not just Mexico, but from Honduras, Guatemala, all these other places, Central America.
Sure. Well, if you're in America and you hear about an American child coming up missing from their child, well, we have Amber Alerts and everything else that pops up when an American child comes up missing. But in the United States, if a child comes up missing across the country, well, we never hear about that. So when they end up here in America, no one's really looking for them, so they're just, it's very easy to move them around within these sex trafficking rings, and no one ever is really looking for them here. And that's, for the rings that exist there where they're really trying to make money off of them, like drug dealers, that are really trying to profit off of a sex ring like that. That's their bread and butter, really, because it's lower risk. And we're finding now that more and more drug dealers are actually getting into the sex trafficking ring, not just with children, but prostitution as well. Only because if they sell drugs, once they sell the drugs, they're gone. That's it. But with prostitution or any kind of human trafficking at all, that's a product that can be used over and over and over again to them. It's a product. So I think right now, actually, it is the second large, human trafficking in general is the second largest business, illegal business in the world, right behind illegal drugs. So, and I'm sure it's, with everything that's going on in the world, it's probably catching up pretty quickly. So,
but you wouldn't think it'd be here. We always think of America as being a better place and all that kind of stuff, but we have freaks and fruitcakes and dirt bags and perverts here too. So,
well, it's our dirty.
It's a heartbreaker, but
it's our dirty little secret. It's something we don't like to talk about because it's uncomfortable and we don't want to hear about it. But it's something we need to talk about because if we don't, it's never going to stop.
Absolutely right. It'll be just another Lolita Express.
Now, I will say, law enforcement recently has really been kicking it up, doing their job. I don't know if it's because they just don't want to scare the public or why, but unless you're looking for the headlines for these kind of things, you tend to not catch these stories as they come through the media. You'll hear about Trump over and over and over again, but you won't hear about these really what should be national headline stories. In Atlanta, Georgia, they had this operation. It was a sting operation. It was called Operation Safe Summer, and they actually rescued 160 kids and made over 150 arrests on sexual predators. Now, how this was not headline news everywhere in America over every media source you can imagine is absolutely beyond me. You really had to look for the headlines for this specific thing. Otherwise, you really wouldn't have even known about it. Absolutely blows my mind, but that is some testimony there that law enforcement is working on this and they are, trying to get to the bottom of this. But in many cases, I think, this gets a little bit above their heads. Typically law enforcement, they're going to track down your local guys, the guys that are online trying to, actually buy services rather than the people that are providing services. So there's something to be said there. I just don't see a whole lot of people, getting arrested that are running these sex trafficking rings, but I see a whole lot of arrests on the people that are trying to buy the services. So even then, you can look at, there is in fact a systematic cover-up that can exist here. Going back to the Pennsylvania thing, they actually detail where the district attorney, Robert Masters, gave the order to halt all investigations into the church. And he actually admitted to doing this so that he could gain the political support of the church, so he could, advance his own political career. So that is quite astonishing. There was already investigations into these things, but the district attorney gave the order to stop those investigations because he wanted the support from the Catholic Church. So, I mean, not trying to focus on the church, but just looking at, from the very top, if you've got a district attorney that doesn't want these investigations going on, I mean, what kind of hope does that give to these victims? They're looking for closure on these things and trying to find out what they can do, to find justice. And these kind of things is what's led to, they had over 301 priests who were listed in this report. And as of this report coming out, they were only able to file charges on 2 of them because of the statute of limitations in Pennsylvania. So all these men are going to walk free. Most of them are either dead or they're going to completely walk free unless they can change the laws in Pennsylvania. But only 2 of these men were within the timeline of the statute of limitations.
Well, that's another trick. That's another trick they use, is they don't report this stuff until the statute's passed, and then they'll report it. Maybe the police do something about it, and then they'll transfer that priest off to somewhere else, and there's nothing that can be done after that.
That's right. And the Vatican organizes all that. I hate to just bash on the Vatican, but you have to keep in mind that they knew about this the whole time. This isn't new to them. I mean, they put out a statement and say, that, oh, we can't believe this happened, and we that's terrible. But they knew about it the whole time. I mean, and it's detailed here in this report, and they know that. But they can't do anything about it. But they're the people there that was orchestrating all these moves. Hey, you go here and you go there, and they just keep them shuffling around so that no one ever has to be held accountable for the things that they've done.
Well,
is this part of that same deal where the not this pope, but the previous pope had put the kibosh on some priest or cardinal or rook or something other, I don't know, for this kind of diddling kids thing? And then when this pope we got now came in, he reappointed that guy to an important position. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? I know I didn't dream it.
I am not. I'm not familiar. I've done a little bit of research into the past of the church recently, but just to be frank with you, until this report came out, I'd never really suspected something to this scale could be going on. I've always heard rumors of it and heard that. Well,
Frank, this is kind of new. Oh no, you're okay. I'm sorry. You're Jeremy.
Yeah.
Well, can I be earnest?
What's that?
Never.
Only
it was getting a little bit too kind of.
I was going to say, only Denton would try to make jokes when we're talking about sex trafficking.
What do you know about these kids being brought south of the border? They got to get past the border patrol. They got to go through all these states to go wherever. There's got to be some kind of cover-up going on. Or how do they pull this off?
Absolutely. So I don't want to get into too many specifics because there's no official investigation into any of these things. So therefore, I don't necessarily want to raise too much awareness to this, but there are absolutely things that I have looked into that look like major businesses that are strategically placed around the country that are financially backed by some of the absolute most elite in the world, not just the United States, the world. And they potentially are placed very strategically to be a checkpoint. So if you're looking at logistics and they're trying to move somebody from Mexico, and around the country, they have to have a place to meet. They have to have a kind of a safe place. If you think into the minds of the people that are coming from Mexico, they don't know the area, so they have to have a very central location that they can meet with somebody, and then you have your local guys that'll meet them there. And they don't want to do this publicly. Now, especially around the border, they've got to have places, if they're moving, to and from across the border, they've got to have places that they can sort of camp out for a little while their spotters are watching the border and let them know when the coast is clear. And there may be times where that could take days in order for that to be just perfectly right for them to cross the border. And so we have seen some recent events that have, kind of exposed some of that, maybe shown, some evidence of that. But even in that specific case, local law enforcement just really didn't want to look at it. They wanted to just call it another homeless camp. In that case specifically, we're talking about the Tucson, Arizona event. And it's, that event, the local police department, they did go and look at it. And Veterans for Child Rescue came and looked at it. They ran down there and looked at it with them. And their first report was that this looked like a child sex trafficking camp right here. I mean, everything to them looked like it was, that's exactly what it was. And these guys, that's what they do. If you're not familiar with Veterans for Child Rescue, maybe go take a look at who they are so you can get a better understanding. They are veterans that they work with law enforcement in order to do sting operations. So their first report on this camp is this is a child sex trafficking camp, no doubt. Then maybe a few days later, after the police department comes out with their report, he suddenly comes out and says, this was not a child sex trafficking camp. This is nothing but a homeless camp. Just totally flipped the page on this. I mean, just completely flipped on this. Now, in my opinion, I don't think that they're a bad organization. I think they wanted to hold on to the relationship that they had with law enforcement so that they continue to do the work that they're doing. But in order to do that, they kind of had to follow along with what law enforcement was saying. More than likely, they knew this was a child sex trafficking camp. Now, if you haven't looked at any of the videos on Tucson, Arizona, and what was going on there, I highly suggest that you go look at some of those videos and maybe use that, make up your own opinion on that. But
Jeremy, I did see some of those videos, and I remember when they went in there, they found child's toys, children's soiled underwear, mattresses for children. I mean, it was really disgusting what they found in there, and it's like, how could you not say this was at least something bad was going on there?
Absolutely. And then there's black hair dye on the scene, so that has to raise the question: what in the world is black hair dye for? Now, and one thing that a lot of people have overlooked is that when this happened, there's a guy that comes up in a cowboy hat and some younger guy, and they give like 3 different stories to the police department. First, they made it for the homeless people. Then he came up with another story and said that he made it for him and his wife, so they had somewhere to camp, somewhere to come and hang out. And then he had some other third crazy story. I mean, he couldn't decide what this place was for, and that's because he was not in any way expecting, multiple police departments, 20 people out there, people driving up with cameras looking at. I mean, they weren't ready for this, so he didn't have a story prepared. And so you naturally saw this guy completely freaking out, trying to figure out how to explain what's going on here. And then they get in the car and just take off, just freaking out. And you never see him again. And go back to as soon as the police department cleared this and said that, the investigation's over, that day, CMEX goes out and just bulldozes this place over. I mean, just gets rid of any evidence possible. They couldn't get to it fast enough. They couldn't wait to knock this out.
Did you say CMEX?
CMEX, yes.
What's that?
Yeah, CMEX was the concrete company that owned the property that this was on. It was an abandoned CMEX concrete plant. It was an abandoned property, but they still owned the property, and that's who was the people that came and gave them the 3 different stories were supposed to be there from CMEX. Apparently, they owned the property, but it was, of course, we know now it's owned by CMEX, the concrete company, which is a Mexican concrete company. The owner of it's a Mexican company that operates also in Mexico. This same company also works with, they worked with Hillary Clinton during the whole Hades event. When they had the big storms over there, they worked with her and were one of the contractors that were supposed to be helping her build up all the different, all the houses over there. And if you haven't done any research on that, I'd highly suggest you do that. That was a big old money scam right there. As you know, hardly no houses got built whatsoever.
Yeah, they took in millions and millions of dollars, and they poured hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars into Haiti.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this was one of the contractors that worked with her. And if I really hate to get on too many of conspiracy theory type things, but George Soros has over $40 million in investments in this company, which you got to kind of wonder, why in the world does George Soros have $40 million investments in a concrete company? That's not really his bread and butter. He his bread and butter is typically trading foreign currencies. He kind of plays the currencies of different countries against each other, and he makes investments, but that just seems kind of odd, when you find out that he owns $40 million in stock in this concrete company. It just seems strange. But anyways, that's really about it on CEMEX.
I don't see, you say you don't want to go into conspiracy theories. I don't think they're really theories anymore.
Well,
No,
maybe not.
They're still,
but
they're still being passed off by the regular media as conspiracy theories. I mean, anytime anybody brings up George Soros, it's like, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. He's just a nice old man with a bunch of money. So, I mean, people like us are starting to get it. The mainstream media, they're still sort of covering things up and not really wanting to look at what's right in front of them.
Well, the only reason why I say
part of the problem.
Well, the only reason why I say I don't want to get down into it in like a conspiracy theory is because I can't in any way prove his motive for investing in this company. It may just be a financial, he may have saw it as a good financial investment for some reason. So that's really what I mean when I say I don't want to get into conspiracy theory, because I can't.
And we know that Soros he's got a sharp eye for great investments. I mean, he's poured money into Antifa, BLM. I mean, this guy, he's sharp.
Absolutely, because I can't remember the last time I've seen. I mean, investing in Antifa has to be just about like investing in Walmart in their early days.
Exactly. If I saw George Soros investing in Girl Scouts, I'd swear they turned into the devils. I just assume whatever Soros touches turns into crap.
No, now that's politically incorrect. It's the Scouts of America now.
Oh, my bad. Scouts of America and Boy Scouts is.
Yeah.
What's the Boy Scouts now?
Scouts of America. It's one
what's
of
the
the
Girl
same.
Scouts?
It's all gender neutral
is.
now.
Scouts of America. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, Jammer would love that. Sasquatch, that's what I'm talking about.
Hey, well, tell you what, fellas, we are coming up on almost 30 minutes already. I mean, this is just fascinating, and it goes really quick. So if there's anything else you want to get in real quick, maybe another 5 minutes or so, let's hit on that now.
Okay. So let me slam in here real quick. Nancy Schaefer, she was a Georgia state senator from 2004 to 2008. And she released a report detailing how Child Protective Services had become this big business. And this was after Bill Clinton passed a bill essentially offering cash bonuses for every child that they adopted out of Child Protective Services. So they've kind of turned it into this big business. And Nancy is, putting out this report showing how this is all going down. So in order for them to get these bonuses, though, they have to keep bringing in kids. They have to keep bringing them into the program so that they can, in fact, adopt them out. And so after she puts this report out, her and her husband, they just come up dead. They're in their house. Let's see, her husband had one shot to the chest and she had one to the back, or one to the back of her head. So these people just come up dead. And now there's interviews with all of her neighbors and the people that were really close to her. They said that they had this really good, loving relationship. So, of course, there was a lot of people following this that were like, what the heck's going on? She puts out this report really bashing on Child Protective Services. And if you don't know anything about Child Protective Services, this is why this ties in. I'm going to read here real quick some key facts about Child Protective Services. So this is coming from the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. Okay, and this is in 2017. They assisted law enforcement and families with more than 27,000 cases of missing children. 91% were endangered runaways, 5% family abductions, 3% critically missing young adults ages 18 to 20, 1% non-family abductions, less than 1% lost, injured, or otherwise missing children. Now, of the nearly 25,000 runaways reported in 2017, 1 in 7 were likely victims of child sex trafficking. Of those, 88% were in the care of social services when they went missing. So as far as U.S. children, that is the hot spot when we're talking about child sex trafficking. A lot of these kids, because they're very vulnerable, they don't have families that are looking over them. And when these kids, they come missing from child protective services, nobody really thinks twice. They think they're just runaways. But what ends up happening is they have nowhere to go, and they end up in a sex trafficking ring. You know, people will take advantage of that because that's specifically what they're looking for, is a child that's vulnerable, has nowhere to go, they don't have money, they don't have people looking out for them, and then they offer all those things that they don't have in their life, and they take advantage of that vulnerability.
Well,
and
this
so
is
Nancy,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say
sorry.
this goes right back to the MO of the priests. Also, they don't target the children that are in loving homes and have stability and things like that. They target the ones that are broken homes or that they can sort of weasel their way into. So I mean, it's almost the same MO for the two different things.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's going to come into play no matter what. They're always going to be looking for children that are, you know, easy to access. They're not going to want children where the parents are going to come chasing them down. But that doesn't make those children any less, you know, important to the world. I mean, those are children just like any other.
Yeah.
So,
And we know what Jesus said about abusing the kids. You're better off with a millstone around your neck, throw it off a boat. And
Absolutely.
I believe Jeremy would like to be the one to tie the rope around those pieces of those individuals' necks. And we do appreciate you. Hey, Jeremy, you going to be able to come back?
Yeah, anytime you guys want me, just let me know.
Excellent. Look here, this is Jeremy. Can I say your last name?
Yeah, sure. Jeremy Barnes.
Jeremy Barnes of Wasteland Media. Is that a .com?
No, I don't have a website. But if you search Wasteland Media in any of those platforms, I'm the first one that pops up.
Well, I can imagine so. And to be once again specific, he's not calling Alabama Wasteland.
No, that was just I was sitting around pondering, and to be honest, that's just the first thing that popped up in my mind. So I just went with it. There's no specific reasoning behind the name.
Okay, so Wasteland Media, you can find them at YouTube, except for whenever YouTube kicks them off. You can find them in BitChute. He's heading to real.video. Yep, excellent.
Yep.
Well, look here. This has been one somber podcast. I hate for everybody to be let down on such a sad note, but, well, we all know we're doomed. So, Sasquatch, what are we supposed to do?
Well, we should pay attention to stuff like this and also drink up.
Have a good night.
Dirty